Mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues, bonjour and welcome here in Davos in the AI House. My name is Alexandre Fasel. I'm the State Secretary for Foreign Affairs. I would like to welcome you here and thank you for your interest, and it's a big pleasure to launch together with you the Gen AI Red Teaming Pilot Network. Now that is part of an initiative of the Foreign Department of Switzerland, which we call the Swiss Call for Trust and Transparency in AI. And that is one of the concrete actions that comes under that heading, and the other one we will launch this afternoon. And in a typically Swiss manner, the way we go about new projects like this is to congregate civil servants, the administrations, but also academia, private sector, the civil society, and to create things. So at the moment where we discuss a lot about the challenges of AI, which is very important in order to understand les tenants et aboutissants of the problematic, as we say in French, it is important then to drill down and go into the concrete action so that we can make progress and advance the cause. And this is what this network and piloting this network is all about. So the action, the first action that is needed in this field is the initiation of a risk exploration and mitigation network, which we call the Gen AI Red Teaming Pilot Network. In the midst of an ongoing global debate, as I just mentioned, and most recently in Bletchley Park at the UK AI Safety Summit, about the needs for standardization in the domain of AI safety testing, this initiative stands as a timely response. The AI community has long recognized the urgency for robust and standardized safety protocols to govern the rapidly evolving landscape of AI technologies. And the launch of the Gen AI Red Teaming Pilot Network today is an innovative step, certainly, but it is also a direct answer to this crucial dialogue, demonstrating our commitment to shaping the future of AI. As I said, this network brings together experts from various fields to explore risks and adhere to responsible disclosure practices, ultimately promoting the development by standardized AI testing and promoting that by actually doing it and developing it rather than just imagining it. The pilot phase is coordinated by the ETH AI Center and scientifically led by Professor Florian Tramer and Professor Carmela Troncoso. It includes leading academic research groups and industry representatives, and our aim is to test if a collaborative approach similar to cybersecurity can be effective in AI. So with that, I wish you a good session. I thank you again for your interest and presence. Et au travail. And under the leadership of my dear colleague Nina Frey from Foreign Affairs, who is the deputy head of our Digital Foreign Policy Division. Nina, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary of State. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for having taken the time. It's not so early anymore because we had a breakfast at 7, but still early for those who traveled from afar. Thank you also, dear panelists, for joining us today. As Mr. Fasel already said, and I also tried to explain in the pre-briefing to the panelists, it's not a discussion panel as probably most of the other panels that you're going to see here today. That's why we also many, and I unfortunately had to give them a very short time that they can actually answer some of the questions. I hope we will manage to go through. Maybe if they're really quick, we even have time for some of the questions, because the goal of this launch is really to make it public, to probably also explain a bit the reasons and the goals, and maybe to even gain new partners. So with this in mind, I would like to hand over the mic, or even the floor, to Professor Trammer, who, as the Secretary of State already said, has the co-leads together with Professor Carmela Troncoso from EPFL on this network. So, Florian, why don't you explain us about the why we're starting this network, and also so what's your goal, what's kind of the timeline, the next 6 months, what have you already been doing, and what do you plan to do, and also what would you need from the partners? Do you want to have my mic, or yeah, probably that. Then I can interrupt if you go over the 4 minutes.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for being here so early. Yeah, so why are we here? I guess it's not a surprise to anyone here that generative AI has really taken the world by storm. There's a lot of excitement about sort of cool new things we could build with this technology. But there's also a lot of, I would say, competitive pressure, sort of industries that seem like they're going to be disrupted by this, maybe jobs that are going to change, and sort of also competitive pressure to sort of build things a bit too fast in this space. Is a bit the Silicon Valley mindset that ripples through. And so the problem in this space is that there's just so many things we don't understand about this technology. And so from a security and privacy perspective, we're a little bit lost. And when we talk to sort of anyone in the space, be it in industry, in academia, everyone's a bit sort of doing their own thing, a mixture of trying things with their own models, with opaque models from leading industry partners, reading technical reports, browsing Twitter. And so overall, just it seems like no one really knows exactly what they're doing. And so what we want to do is to essentially make sure that we don't know what we're doing, but together. So jokes aside, the goal here would really be to try and bring all the stakeholders, or at least the interested stakeholders in this space, together to explore and share knowledge and expertise on the security and privacy risks that AI, generative AI, can pose, and hopefully how we can mitigate these risks and sort of build more secure systems for the population at large. So with this in mind, we decided to launch this network. So we've had preliminary events, the latest one in December, which were mainly about sort of gathering also interest from industry partners, sort of trying to see who is actually working in this space in Switzerland, or sort of more broadly in the international community, and would be interested in participating in such a network. And so we have now actually gathered interest from a bunch of leading companies in this space, and are also, of course, on the lookout for potentially more people who would be interested in participating in this. And the next steps going forward are really going to be, well, to pilot this network. So the goal here would be for industry partners who are looking into applications of generative AI. This could be by building things internally, or by using external things and trying to build them into their own infrastructure, to really have these partners come forward and sort of explain or share the vulnerabilities, the risks that they care about, that they're worried about, that they think might be underexplored. From the academic side, we can provide our own expertise or workforce in trying to understand these vulnerabilities. And then the goal, essentially, of this network would be to have a place to share this knowledge, this expertise, sort of to disclose what we found within partners of this network, in anticipation of course, also disclosing some of these things, these vulnerabilities openly, kind of by following best practices from the cybersecurity field at large. And the hope here would be that over the next few months, we will have a number of sort of pilot use cases where with different companies we can work on exploring new forms of risks, figuring out how this actually affects real products, real users, and hopefully work together on mitigation strategies. yeah, that's, I think, it from my side. So as I said, what we're kind of expecting from you is, well, people who are not yet part of the network and who might want to join, come talk to us. People who have already expressed interest to essentially share what they think are the main problems, the main security vulnerabilities they would want us to help work on, or other people in the network to help put eyes on. Then figure out how to actually do this in a collaborative manner. Of course, this might require some sharing of resources, of expertise, of access, and hopefully together, yeah, work towards a better scientifically grounded understanding of the risks that generative AI poses and how we can mitigate them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florian. I think that was helpful to get a bit of glimpse on what you aim to do in the next 5 to 6 months, if I understand correctly. I would like to hand over, you have a mic, I see, very good, to Sebastian Hallensleben, who is here in his role as chair of the European Senelec Commission, who is currently working on putting standards to help for the EU AI Act. You've been mandated to do that. And we have invited you to this panel as well, because I think the Secretary of State mentioned it in his opening remarks in the UK AI Safety Summit. One of the main, I would say, points that everyone was pointing out was exactly this lack of standardized safety testing. They said, like, every company does red teaming and safety testings, but basically to their own terms. So is this correct, or is there already some standards there that we just didn't see? Maybe you can elaborate, as again, unfortunately, 3 minutes only on this, and maybe also want to make a link to the OECD work that you do.
Thank you very much. And yesterday I was on this same stage in the session on the AI governance, standardization and certification. This is about what we can impose on the good actors. They will follow the rules. Today, I'm really pleased to be involved in this red teaming launch, because this is about what do we do about the bad actors who do not follow the rules and who might be in jurisdictions where we cannot reach them. And if we put ourselves into the mindset of a bad actor, it's a very different mindset. It's not about having a rule book and following it, both in spirit and letter. It's about being creative. It's about finding the gaps. It's about finding the chinks in the armor. And as the State Secretary pointed out earlier, if we talk about cybersecurity, if there's a good firewall, people find social engineering tricks, or they find a supply chain attack. So they're really, really creative. And this is the shift in mindset that we as a network need to do in order to be a successful red teaming effort. So what this will give us is a way of upgrading the digital space, because we will not be able to handle all the risks of AI just by addressing AI regulation and standardization. We need to think more fundamentally about the resilience of the digital space. We need to think about how can we make sure that the next generation of ChatGPT and the next generation of attacks is not going to undo any measures that we might have put in place. So this fundamental thinking, to me, is also one of the outcomes and one of the goals of this work. And we will need standards for this as well, because the digital space, if it does get an upgrade, will need standards for trust, for identities, for the ways in which we interact, for ways in which we prove that we are human beings without losing our privacy. And this is actually, as Nina touched on, some of the work that we do in the OECD. We recently put out a call for partners for a global challenge on trust in the digital space. And I'm really looking forward for those initiatives to flow together and build a big community of red teaming and of upgrading the digital space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. I would like now to go in the third part, actually, of this launch to the actual partners, the industry partners. who are amongst many others. Some of them are here in the room as well. I saw here and started this network together. I would like to hand over the floor to Laure Wilhelmina. You're the Executive Vice President of Data Analytics and AI at Swisscom, so one of the largest, if not the largest, I would say, ICT provider in Switzerland. I would like for you to share with us some of the reasons also why you actually joined the network, what you hope to get out of it, but could you also contribute from your own testing experiences, and whatever else you would like to share for the others here to know.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here because I was looking forward to having something like that since quite a while. So that's why for me this lunch here is especially, I'm really grateful that we have it here now with all that together already. And as also together with you, Sebastian, I also was on stage exactly on the same chair, and I started with the discussion about how much trust is important for us, and it's exactly the same here as well. So how do we build? How do we do trust, and how do we do services which our customers can trust us? So security, safety is one of the pillars which is have in at Swisscom since years. So also we do Redteaming. We have started also looking for how do we have a good culture and that the people also have that in mind in developing things. So it's not about just technology, knowing the things, knowing the rules, knowing the standards, but it's how to bring those things into processes and into the culture of the individual developers, which is for me one of the most important topics. How do we do that in the organization that we can then develop it in a safe way? And we have DevSecOps since years, so there we have the process all in place. There I know what to do. But now with AI, and especially Gen AI, we have new things that coming up, new problems that we can't just solve with the standard processes and tools. It's just another mindset. So therefore, it's for me crucial to have a broader network than just we alone at Swisscom. We try out what do we do and learning by ourselves what do we need to do to apply all that. But having this network, especially to learn from others, to learn what others see and how do they do. This is perhaps also one thing we can introduce when we apply those things. What are our learnings? What did we see that others can profit as well, and we can profit from the others? So as this topic is broad and difficult, it's especially crucial to have this network and not doing the things alone. So that's why also when my second heart is not AI, it's security. I always challenge to, hey, AI, we need other discussions about this topic and bring security and AI together. That's why this next step with having a network is, I'm really grateful to have it. So I think.
Thank you so much. I hope also for the audience that was very understandable. Thank you so much, Laura. I would like to turn to my right to a second partner of the network, Mr. John. I have heard you and your global CEO at, I think it was the Digital Switzerland Summit some month ago, where you presented many of your own products. To be very frank, I wasn't aware before that like an insurance company. I never thought of an insurance company when we discussed about the AI work, and it really opened my mind. And I think you and your CEO both also underlined the importance of collaborative efforts to have it like that. Also from the company's perspective, you have a responsibility to make it safe and trustworthy. So I'm very pleased to have you here on the panel and to probably also explain to the audience what's the role of an insurance company, why you are actually part of this network, and also what's your role in it and in safety and trustworthiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to be here. Zurich Insurance is a data-driven organization. So we use data to forecast, to mitigate, to cover risk. So we have been, 4 years ago, we made a public commitment that we will treat data, use AI responsibly, securely, and safely. So we have established an AI assurance framework, governance framework. It's not just because of a regulatory reason. It's just the right thing to do. So we have been doing this for quite some time, and we know this space really well. And then fast forward with this, I think last August, I was at the GIFO event with Mark organized, and it was great to hear that we are starting to establish this network. I'm very excited. Fast forward to now we are announcing this today. And then I think that the Swiss call for transparency, trust in AI is very, very critical. Zurich is very supportive with that. And I think as a multinational Swiss company, I think Switzerland is is prime to be the digital trust hub in this global economy today. So we all know generative AI is a key theme, and then it has offered a lot of potentials, opportunities. And then Zurich Insurance has been leveraging that. We have been using it in many different use cases. But also, we know the challenges because it's as fast-moving. There's a certain level of uncertainty. So we are treating this carefully. So for now, we are still have the man in the middle, the human in the loop as the safeguarding approach. So because this is still moving quickly. So, but we are not stopped using it, but we want to use it responsibly. So with this network, I think it gives us the opportunity. It's not only about a foundational model training, but it's also for us, a lot of it is not about a model training, it's more so about a model inferencing. So how can we create a loop? A loop that when there's a model trained and then we inference it and we provide instant feedback. I think earlier I think the key word of this network is the practical approach. It's a very practical approach and focus on action. How do we continuously make things better collaboratively? So we're very excited about this. I think this is perfect timing. I think I always call this is the dawn of a hyper-innovation era. So there's a lot we should be doing together to make it right. So great to be here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your words and also for the underlying importance of doing it together. I think that's, for me, the most crucial part in general in how we deal with AI. Thank you so much. I would like, because there's been many initially Swiss organizations that you've heard before, but I would like to also hand over the floor to Mrs. Hinkel, because we also have non-Swiss company members, and the idea is really to have it a global network. It's really open for all, because AI is global and intertwined with everyone. So I'm specifically pleased, Mrs. Hinkel, that you're also here. And Microsoft is obviously, I think you've got a company that has a very broad experience, both in cybersecurity, but also red teaming efforts. I think you also share very publicly on your website the different experience you do with your red teaming works. I would like to give you the floor to also maybe share a bit more on these experiences that you do if you handle it within your own company, but also what you can contribute, but also benefit, hopefully, from also a network where you have very different partners, as for instance, Zurich Insurance or other companies that are more directly linked also to us. Can I hand over to you? Thank you, Mrs. Hinkel.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on this topic, because it's a topic that's super important to Microsoft globally and locally. We believe that securing AI is a team sport. It's nothing that one company can do on its own. So we need to. We've been working with academia, with our customers, with different partners on this topic, and of course this is another great opportunity to really exchange different perspectives on where risks could occur and what to watch out for. Microsoft has established a responsible AI standard that governs internally everything that we do with AI. It covers a broad range of topics. It has 7 principles, including things like transparency and fairness. And it is very, very broad, and it governs how we develop AI. And we fundamentally believe that customers only work with software or that they trust. Now, the principles, the responsible AI principles, are for the, as you said, for the good guys. So, of course, we have a very, very deep red teaming approach in that space as well, because and there again we gathered people from different backgrounds to independently look at all the products that we produce, especially also in AI. We've had a red team on responsible AI or on AI since 2018 when it first occurred, and now we're broadening the scope of what we do there to not only include security topics, but also include topics like distributing or generating wrong content and a little bit more around the Gen AI topics that may occur. So very, very happy to be part of this network and very happy to really exchange in depth where we see risks and be part of creating a responsible AI usage, because I fundamentally believe that will be to the benefit of humanity.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hinkel. I think that's been fantastic closing remarks as well for our launching efforts to make this network public. And known, you've been fantastic in sticking to the timeline. I hope the audience is happy for that, because it leaves room for some few questions. Probably 5 to 6 minutes. I see already one question here. I think you would walk over with the microphone. That would be one. You can have. Well, you know what? We have more micros here, no?
I can throw it if you're ready to catch it.
I give you one. We start here.
I'm not a good
We start
catch.
here. Gives you time to walk around. Okay. Thank you. So we collect some questions, and then I will hand over to the panelists. Thank you, Mrs. Hicks.
Hi, Peggy Hicks with the UN Human Rights Office in Geneva. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for presenting it. 2 quick points. One is looking at your points about needing to raise the bar for what is being done across the industry. I love the idea that the idea is to make it clear what standard practices are and what they would look like. We did a summary of corporate current practices on our BTEC webpage. You can find it. But how can we make sure that this information is public and really does make it a race to the top that really calls attention to those who may not have these practices in place? And the second point is just around the looking at risks and red teaming in this context. One of the things we've found is how do you ensure that you're seeing risks from the perspectives of all the different consumers and those that will be impacted by this? So how can you really make this global? How can you bring in a human rights perspective that will look at the full range of risks that may go beyond what researchers or corporates, people in particular settings would see at first glance? Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Hicks. I would collect 2 more questions, and then I will start answering. I think you have the microphone, and then the microphone was going to be thrown to you back here. Yes, you start.
Thank you. Alex Hockley with ETH Zurich Foundation. Maybe a question to the 3 panelists from industry. Do you have any expectations that science should deliver, the science community? Or maybe put bluntly, are scientists evil enough to do red teaming?
Please, you.
How do you see the role of startups in the red teaming network? Because this is all represented by large players, and startups do not have resources to play by the rules or even know the rules.
Thank you so much. We'll do another round for those who also want to ask a question. I think some of the questions I would say are more addressed to you. One, are you fierce enough or bad enough to do that? Maybe you can answer this question, and I will then also take over from how we can do the feedback. And obviously, the other colleagues can also jump in to answer questions. Florian.
Yeah. So just I've made a career out of breaking things. That's kind of what I do from a research perspective, and I'm not the only one. I think it's actually in the cybersecurity space. There's a a long culture of people sort of outside of large industry, either in academia or just sort of independent hackers going and breaking things. And I think generally actually having more success than some industry players do, because they have sort of the time and motivation to actually go and spend a couple of hours or days breaking something. And so yeah, I'm not too worried about that part. One other thing I can maybe address on how I see the role of different partners, like for instance startups, is that I think as in such a network, there's many different roles that can be played. And I think on the one hand, it's very nice to hear from different partners or organizations what kind of risks they worry about, or what kind of what kind of problems they're facing in a day-to-day that from a security or privacy perspective that they think need addressing. And then, of course, also being on the receiving side of sort of hearing maybe from more established companies about how they are dealing with some of these things, what kind of best practices or gold standards can be adopted. And so I think there's definitely a place for large and small players in this space, especially because it's a very, very new technology. So sometimes some of the smallest players are actually the ones who are really at the forefront of the technology.
Sebastian?
I'd just like to pick up on the point that Peggy Hicks made. I very much liked your point about a race to the top, creating a race to the top. And I'd really like to encourage us to be ambitious and not just accept that the digital space is going to be flooded by AI automated fakes and AI controlled bots, but to think fundamentally, what digital space do we actually want? What should it look like? How do we shape it? How do we want to interact? And with this ambition and with this creative mind, coupled with red teaming to make sure bad actors don't interfere with our ambition, I think we'll get very, very far. And I share the point you made about communicating as broadly as possible. In the security area, there are always trade-offs to be made, but to fundamentally communicate on where we want to take the digital space. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to follow up also on the question about how you can make sure that there's a feedback loop also to some of the leaders probably you mentioned. I think we started referring to the UK AI Safety Summit, like the Bletchley Park Summit, and there will be another one of the safety summits in Korea, one in France, maybe one in Geneva one day. And I think that's why we also, the Secretary of State mentioned the role of the Swiss Foreign Ministry of kind of supporting or helping to enable this kind of networks, is that we can also try to feedback these experiences in such summits, for instance. That's just one of the examples. I think in Bletchley, and Andreas, I'm looking at Andreas, you've also been there. There have also been a request on actually starting safety institutes. Many countries are starting that. And to also share the experience of those safety institutes. And I think this network is just yet another way of doing this, trying to find answers to the open questions. So I think that's how we aim to do it, at least from Switzerland's perspective. I'm looking into the room because the clock is ticking. Is there one or two more burning questions? I see one hand, and the micro is coming to you from behind.
Thanks. Hi, Marcus Landy from Redcode AI. We prevent social engineering and do automated red teaming. I'm wondering, because people are always the core of this, so how do you keep your people safe during red teaming so you don't lose trust within the company, thinking that, oh, the people at the top of the company are trying to trick us during these red teaming exercises? Thank you.
Can I hand the micro to one of the at the top people? I don't know, Mrs. Hinkel, Mrs. Chan, or...
I mean, it's a good question because we rely on that. I would say for Microsoft, it is so deep in our culture that actually the teams are proud to be doing the work that they're doing. And we're working with internal teams, but we're also working with independent teams, so that are not part of Microsoft. And there's almost a little bit of a competition there as well. So I think that's a good way of making sure that also the internal people working on red teaming never come into a situation where they feel that they're questioning something that they shouldn't, because if that happens, the other teams outside will question the same thing. So it's a lot around the culture. It's a super important point and something we're very aware of and make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to this. I agree with Cathrin. This is about the culture. But besides that, a lot of what we are talking about today is not new. Okay, of course, generative AI is new. They create a lot of new opportunity and risk, but the usage of AI has been there for decades. And the red teaming approach has been there for quite some time. So then because of the generative AI, it is accelerated, or you can call it lower the entry barrier, more democratized. So we need to be a lot more mindful. You need to be very transparent. So because we are all still learning this all together, but the fundamental concept is still there. So we need to be responsible. And red teaming, we have been doing red teaming for cybersecurity all along. We have our own red team for cybersecurity. We just need to take from the learnings from those areas and working together with the industry player and then port it to this new frontier, new exciting space. So we are not starting all from a green field, but we have a lot of blocks is already readily available. So, but we need to be a lot more cautious.
Thank you very much. I like the image of blocks, you know, because you can build a house with blocks. I like Legos. No, thank you so much. Thank you again so much. I think we're right in Swiss time or WEF time. I would really like again to thank the panelists for having taken the time to stay here for 40 minutes to also present and make some promotion of this network. I hope that the idea came around. I also hope that some companies would also like to join the team of Carmela and Florian. And I wish you a very successful and interesting day. Thank you so much.